All right, today we're diving into a book that has absolutely taken the world by storm, Atomic Habits by James Clear. We're going to break down the core ideas that have helped millions of people completely rethink how they make progress.
So let me ask you this. How does a team go from, well, being just okay to totally dominating their sport in just 5 years? It sounds kind of impossible, right? But let's start with a story that's not only true, but feels like it's straight out of a movie.
I'm not exaggerating here. For an entire century, British cycling was, well, an afterthought, a joke even. Since 1908, they had managed to win just a single Olympic gold medal. I mean, they were so bad that one of the top bike manufacturers actually refused to sell them gear. Why? Because they were afraid it would literally hurt their brand to be associated with them. Ouch.
And then in 2003, this new performance director named Dave Brailsford comes along. And he introduced a philosophy that would change everything. And it wasn't some massive top-to-bottom overhaul. Nope. It was something much, much smaller.
He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. I know, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is actually super simple. He believed that if you improved every single tiny thing about riding a bike by just 1%, those small gains would add up to a remarkable victory. We're talking everything, from redesigning bike seats to make them more comfortable, to even hiring a surgeon to teach the cyclists how to wash their hands properly so they wouldn't get sick as often. No detail was too small.
And that right there brings us to the first huge revelation from the book, this surprising, almost unbelievable power of just getting 1% better. You know, it's so easy to overestimate the importance of one single defining moment. We think we need this massive, heroic action to get massive success. But the math tells a totally different story.
Get this. If you get just 1% better each day for 1 year, you won't end up 365% better. No, you'll end up 37, almost 38 times better by the end of it. It's wild. But the reverse is also true. Getting 1% worse each day for a year, well, that brings you down to nearly zero.
This is the incredible power of compounding. Think of it this way. Small daily habits are basically the compound interest of self-improvement. Just like this graph shows, those tiny gains stack up over time, while tiny losses can completely wipe out your progress.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine an airplane flying from LA to New York City. If the pilot adjusts the nose of the plane by just 3.5 degrees, a tiny shift you'd barely even notice, they'd land in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. That's how powerful these small changes are over the long haul.
Okay, so if this 1% rule is so amazing, why is it so ridiculously hard to stick with new habits? Why do we start something new and then just give up?
Well, it's because what we think should happen is totally different from what actually happens. We expect our progress to be a straight line, just like this. But in the real world, the most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are delayed. They don't show up right away.
This gap, this space between our expectations and reality, is what James Clear calls the plateau of latent potential, or maybe a more memorable name, the valley of disappointment. It's that phase where you put in all the work, but you're just not seeing the results yet. But your effort isn't wasted, it's being stored. Think of an ice cube. At 25 degrees, 28, 31, nothing seems to be happening. But at 32 degrees, it finally starts to melt. It's that 1 degree shift that makes all the difference, but it couldn't have happened without all the work that came before.
There's this fantastic quote from Jacob Riis that just nails this feeling. It goes, "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock. I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before. That final crack isn't about that one last hit. It's the result of all the 100 hits that came before it."
So this all brings us to a major, major shift in thinking. A whole new way to approach making progress, and it's all about systems over goals.
Now, the book argues something pretty radical. We should pretty much forget about goals and focus on our systems instead. So, what's the difference? Let's break that down.
Okay, so goals are about the result you want to get. You want to win a championship. That's the goal. Systems, on the other hand, are the processes that lead to those results. It's how your team practices every single day. See the difference? Goals are about winning the game, but systems are about being able to keep playing the game and keep winning. And this is so crucial. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Think about it. Winners and losers in any field often have the exact same goals.
The person who came in first and the person who came in last both wanted to win. So if you want better results, you have to stop worrying about the result and fix the inputs. The outputs will take care of themselves.
But wait, there's one final piece to this puzzle. It's a revelation that goes even deeper than your habits, even deeper than your systems.
You see, true, lasting behavior change is actually identity change. It's not about what you want to achieve, it's about who you wish to become. It's like an onion. On the outside, you have your outcomes, then your processes, but right at the very core, that's your identity.
Let's look at a simple but really powerful comparison to see how this actually works in the real world.
Okay, imagine two people who are trying to quit smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." See, they still identify as a smoker who is resisting. The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." That little change in language signals a massive shift in identity. The thing is, any behavior that's out of sync with your identity, it's just not going to last. Your old identity will always find a way to sabotage your new plans.
So the goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. When you start focusing on becoming a certain type of person, your actions just naturally start to fall in line with that new identity.
All right, so let's just quickly recap the big ideas we've covered from Atomic Habits. First, the power of those tiny 1% gains. Second, you gotta be patient and push through that valley of disappointment. Third, build systems, don't just set goals. And finally, and maybe most importantly, identity is the key. It all starts with who you want to become.
Which leaves us with one final powerful question. It's not what do you want to achieve or how are you going to do it, but who do you want to become? Because answering that simple question, that's the real starting point for any meaningful change you want to make.